Once upon a time, Lilius Landrum and Tony Smith pledged their love to each other and to their God.
Match made in heaven.
She just lit up. Just so happy.
And Tone loved her dearly.
But without warning, into this holy union steps pure evil.
I just can't believe it. Blood is everywhere.
I cringed. It was one of the most horrific crime scenes I've ever seen.
For this couple, the honeymoon is over.
Absolutely. Like I get the candles to light.
I know.
Lilius Landrum is ready to commit to an eternal life with her true love, Tony Smith. The mortgage officer and community activist is a striking beauty at 43 and lives a life of deep religious faith. But she hadn't found the right guy until now. And though the 23-year-old music promoter is a much younger man, Lilius knows this is God's will.
All that I have, I'm willing to give and willing to share. And this is what Lilius did.
She was very, very pretty. And Tone loved her dearly.
Tony is a former bad boy whose life is back on a righteous track, thanks to Lilius. He's now studying to be a minister.
She was attracted to the fact that he had turned his life around and was now a good spiritual person.
Tony was a positive influence in the community. Had a lot of love for a lot of people.
They're a unique couple who live life on their own terms, so they hold a one-of-a-kind wedding ceremony. In a Michigan hotel room, they share deeply personal vows of commitment.
I vow to turn away from a life of sin and dedicate my life to you in Yahweh's name.
And I promise to make my love living and active, so our lives remain sanctified.
They connected over their faith. God was looking over them. Their lives were meant for a higher purpose, and they were going to live out this higher purpose together.
But just 7 months later, back in their home of Akron, Ohio, that higher purpose feels horribly absent. The newlyweds landlord and neighbor check up on the couple.
Tony?
After noticing a strange smell coming from their apartment. The odor was faint from outside, but grows stronger here. And in the kitchen, blood everywhere.
Oh my God.
They rush to call 911. Akron detectives respond immediately. Clearly, someone's in grave danger, or already dead.
These drag marks with all this blood.
Detectives follow the trail of blood down into a dark, shadowy basement. This is definitely where the pungent smell is coming from.
And as we're going down the steps, you can actually see bloody footprints on the stairs.
Then, behind the furnace,
Looks like we've got a body.
bathed in blood.
The crime scene to respond.
As they move closer, they realize it's a woman. Then, a ghastly discovery.
Oh, where's the head? Then we notice that she has no head.
A headless body? Even the seasoned detectives are shocked and sickened.
I couldn't move my eyes from the body because there's still blood all over her, and then there's blood where she would have been laying coming out of like the neck part.
Could this be Lilius?
My partner, he's looking around the room and he says,
Come over here and check this out.
and I look down and her head is in a red bucket.
It is Lilius. The beautiful, godly bride, mutilated in some act of unspeakable violence.
I cringed. In 18 years of prosecuting cases, I've never seen anything so gruesome in my life. This must have been completely traumatic, even for the peace officers who are somewhat accustomed to seeing crime scenes. This crime scene went well beyond anger. This crime scene was filled with evil.
It's such a horrifying end for someone so devout and generous. Lilius and her siblings grew up in Akron, Ohio, raised by a single mom.
As a little girl, she was just happy, all the time happy. And she had a giving heart from the very beginning of her life. She had a smile that would just touch your heart.
Thanks to their doting mother, the Landrum children grow up passionate about their education, the arts, and their faith in God. After high school, Lilius's mom gets a job in Los Angeles, and Lilius goes with her. She's always loved acting, so the dazzling world of Hollywood is just where she wants to be.
That was her beginning. She loved acting, and she loved doing commercials. And she was so excited about doing that.
In addition to commercials, she works on TV shows and does community plays.
People recognized her as a very good person and a very good talent.
But even in this town filled with ego, Lilius stays grounded, always getting back to others.
She would always help people that looked like they were struggling or felt like they were by themselves.
While not on set, she reaches out to the lost and lonely, feeding the homeless in LA and writing to prison inmates back in her home state of Ohio. Eventually, Lilius's mother moves back to Akron. And even though her career is beginning to take off, Lilius puts family first.
My mother was starting to get ill. So she came back to help out my mom. And that's the kind of person she was. She didn't hesitate on coming back.
In Akron, she takes a job at a mortgage company and has no trouble making new friends.
Lilius was the most caring, the most regal person that I've ever met in the world. I one time asked her if she was an angel. I just looked at her, I said, "Are you an angel?" And she winked at me.
She joins an Akron church and starts a drug and alcohol rehab program.
Not very often do you find somebody who's just willing to give themselves openly, freely, genuinely, with nothing in return to all walks of life.
It can be hard. I know it can be difficult.
I feel that she was the Mother Teresa of Akron, of our ministry, because of how she didn't care what a person looked like, what a person's background was.
I want you to know that God is here with you, and I'm here with you. I don't know how much family you all have, but you have family in me, and you have family in the church.
Tony Smith's path to faith has been a lot rockier than Lilius's. Growing up in nearby Columbus, Ohio, he takes a wrong turn early in life. In 1995, marijuana charges send him to serve a short stint in jail.
Smith, you have a letter.
While he's doing his time, a new religious pen pal, the divine Lilius, begins to heal his soul.
She was able to talk to all kinds of people and let them know that, hey, I understand. Maybe there's something I can do to help you. Keep your head up and do what you're doing because it's going to work out.
As they write letters back and forth, Lilius convinces him he can make it on the outside, especially if he seeks strength through God. And when Tony finishes his jail sentence in Columbus, he moves to Akron to start over and devote his life to the Lord.
What was left back in Columbus was left back in Columbus. He was moving away from that.
Tony also looks forward to meeting Lilius in person.
Hi, you're Lilith, right? Yes. Hey, I'm Tony. Tony Smith.
Tony Smith.
Though it's the first time, they immediately connect like old friends, thanks to the letters they've exchanged. Tony explains he's going to start a record label in town and wants to become a minister. Lilius is thrilled. Despite their 20-year age difference, there's an instant attraction between them.
Nothing better to a woman than to find a bad boy that seems to have gone good. Lilius believed in second chances. For Tony, Lilius represented stability.
But Lilius has a live-in boyfriend, Max Taylor, also an ex-con she has helped.
So who was that?
Just a friend.
So for the moment, she must settle for just friendship with Tony. But now, that deep connection between them has been severed forever. Lilius' sister is at home watching a television newscast when she hears the dreadful news.
Just came blasting, woman on Fern Street decapitated, and I just dropped everything because I'm like, what?
Akron police ask Lilius' father to do something no parent should ever have to do.
They called my dad in to identify the body.
You sure you want to do this?
And he said that there was so much blood and the odor was so horrible. And he said her head was in this bucket and she's just looking up at me. And he said, you live every night before I go to sleep. The last thing that I see is her little eyes looking up at me like, Daddy, no one was here. And it was like, why would anyone hurt her? Who could possibly have done something like this to her? And where's Tony?
Friends and family worry the raging evil that murdered Lilius may have taken her new husband, too.
We thought that he had been killed or hurt really bad as well.
Everyone prays the missing groom hasn't met the same fate as his new bride, wherever he is. Just 7 months after Lilius Landrum and Tony Smith exchanged custom vows in a private ceremony, the bride is found, beheaded, and the groom is missing.
We was really worried, where Tony might be at.
But we didn't know, did somebody break in and do something to the both of them?
Police file a missing persons report, hoping to find him alive, sending notices to all area police agencies, and continue processing the shocking crime scene. The bloody footprints on the stairs are likely to be the killers.
It was a bare footprint. It wasn't a shoe print.
They'll need to match it to a suspect if they find one.
Somebody has a bright idea to take us off and cut the stairs out and take the top 4 stairs. And that's what they did.
And what was used to commit the gruesome decapitation?
The suspected weapon was a serrated steak knife. Everyday kitchen steak knife.
Somebody took the time to make sure this woman suffered.
I mean, you're not talking about using a machete with one swoop.
But perhaps the most stomach-churning detail is that the bucket holding the head is filled with urine.
The psychopath who did this had some other thing going on than just I want you dead. It's I want you desecrated. I want to completely disrespect your body. This is more than anger. This is evil.
And I just didn't understand how you could do that.
How could Lilius have been defiled in this horrifying way, when she was always so sweet and full of life, and happy with her man? Although they're still only friends at this point, as she and Tony spend more time together, their connection deepens. They just have so much in common.
We after the pit, and now we see the Optimus days. Oh my God, this dude is trash. You better learn to call me trash. Don't call me trash, man. No, don't call me trash again, man. My rhymes are sick, man. Don't call me trash.
They want to do good. They want to help others. She decides to help him launch his Christian hip-hop record label.
Attitude down. We got a label. Me and the lady over there are starting a Christian rap label.
Yeah?
You good.
I'm pretty
You
sure
on the label.
Yeah, I've been looking for somewhere to showcase my talents.
I was in high school, man, and I needed a lot of help staying focused there, you know, young and wild.
But if you want to do something, we are having a showcase. And we're opening up a new label, and I want to know what
They begin to sign artists for their label.
I appreciate it, man.
It was a motivator to people who had dreams, you know, and I think he got a lot of that from Lilius. Nothing was impossible, you know, nothing was impossible.
Preaching the reality of opposite faith, opposite in Christ like an opposite faith.
It's a long shot and will require a lot of work. But the two friends scrape together the money to start small, determined to make the label a success.
Okay, friends for the top.
We were like tight-knit family. Lilius was like the mother of everybody on the label. Tony was like really more of a brother.
Hey, Tony. Tony, how was that? How was that? Did you hear me?
What's up?
And it starts to look like their new label has real promise.
This label was one of the first labels I ever heard about with rappers talking about God, you know, so it was different.
What does this do? Like, what's all this stuff?
Spending so many hours working together only strengthens the attraction between them. But at this point, Lilius is still with Max. And Max isn't very stable. Before Lilius had taken him under her wing, he'd served time for murder. While in prison, he witnessed a violent riot and has vivid flashbacks.
When I'd pick her up from work, he would be pacing on the front porch, just pacing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm like, what is wrong? And she's like, he's just so out there from what he saw. He's just a nervous wreck.
And he can see Tony and Lilius are really connecting.
You can steal my girl? Hold on, man.
Hold on. Work it. Go, Max. Get out of here. Hey. Max, go.
Lilius has had enough of Max's jealousy and mental instability and breaks up with him. And Tony is right there for her.
Tony just made you feel at ease. He made you feel comfortable. He wasn't like Max, pacing and being weird.
With Max now out of the picture, Tony can put his feelings for Lilius on full display. And Lilius admits she's grown to love Tony.
There was such a build-up to this love affair because it began innocent as a friendship, by letter, no less. And then it became a real-world friendship. And finally, an intimate, romantic friendship. This must have been a build-up, a build-up, a build-up to an exciting crescendo for both of them.
They clicked together. When they walked in the room, it was like beauty entered the room. It was like, wow, y'all look wonderful together. A match made in heaven.
So I was thinking, we should probably try to go to church sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
Alright, so you did good, man. Really good.
Man, appreciate
So we'll be in contact with you about the masters when you get.
After dating a few months, Tony moves into Lilius's apartment. They're inseparable and madly in love. True soulmates.
Well, the session went well,
Good.
but there was one other thing that I felt like I needed to take care of.
Then Tony tells her he wants them to be truly together, in God's eyes. She knows he's the perfect man for her, but she has one problem. A big one.
I can't.
Lilith was married a little bit after high school.
But it was a difficult marriage, and she left him because he was abusive. Even though they split up almost 20 years before, they never got legally divorced. She never thought she'd want to get married again. Until now. Tony is stunned.
First he had to win her from Max. Now he has to win her from a husband who's not even around.
Eager to make things right, Lilius calls her estranged husband and tells him she needs an official divorce. But he has since remarried and refuses.
He said, if you try to divorce me, that's going to throw me into bigamy status, and I'm not going through that, so do not divorce me.
He threatens to physically harm her if she files any legal paperwork or ever brings it up again. Tony wants a real commitment.
But I have a better idea. A little ceremony with some candles.
Lilius assures him they'll find a way to pledge their eternal commitment to each other.
It'll be good, I promise. So where's my ring?
Yet now, that commitment has been ripped apart. But by whom? Police take a closer look at Lilius's ex-boyfriend, Max Taylor. They get a shocker when they learn he witnessed an inmate's decapitation during a prison riot.
Somebody had get their head chopped off with an axe, and he had said seeing that was very exhilarating to him.
When I found out that she was decapitated, I immediately thought of Max. Immediately. This man was obsessing over, seeing somebody decapitated. So, hello, 2 and 2.
And then here we are with Lilius's head being cut off. So yeah, we did want to talk to him about it.
An angry ex with a record who gets excited by decapitation? Detectives need to find Max Taylor fast. Tony's life may depend on it. New bride Lilius Landrum is found in her basement, decapitated. Her new husband is missing, and police worry he may be in danger. Investigators continue processing the crime scene. In the kitchen, they find women's slippers and a smashed gospel cassette tape.
And there was a broken earring. The blood was everywhere, ceiling, all the floors, 4 sides, even on the door.
It was clearly a lengthy and brutal attack that began in the kitchen and moved toward the basement door. Lilius didn't give up easy.
It was very violent. You could tell that she was fighting. 2 of her fingernails were broken.
Blood spatter shows she was decapitated near the basement door. The killer then dragged her down the stairs and dumped her body behind the furnace. Then dropped Lilius's head into the bucket.
It's just mind-boggling. It doesn't make sense to imagine how this could happen to someone so pure and so innocent.
A witness spotted a man fitting the description of Lilius's ex-boyfriend Max Taylor, lurking around the neighborhood before the murder.
I told the police, I said, you are going to find Tony dead. He's going to be stabbed in a car in the back of a trunk somewhere because Max stabbed him.
police expand their search for Max. The day after the body was discovered, the autopsy comes through. Turns out, Lilius lay dead in the basement for 9 days before being found, and the report reveals even more appalling details. Lilius was actually still alive when the murderer decapitated her.
The pain she would have been in, I don't think it would have been quick and painless. It's just, it's inconceivable.
It's so sad to realize that this woman who died such a wicked death was so happy just months earlier as she prepares to wed Tony. Since Lilius's husband won't grant her a divorce, the couple conjure up their own unique wedding ceremony for the one witness who truly matters, their Lord.
She said this is the only thing they can do right now in order to be right with God.
Afterward, they excitedly share their news with friends and family.
Lilius wrote me a letter, and she told me how happy she was, and that you're not going to believe this, but I've married my Tony. And she told me all about the ceremony and how much they were in love with each other.
I was happy to hear that Tony got married, especially to someone like Lilius.
Everything is perfect. Until Max Taylor hears the two are officially together. And the jealous ex begins stalking Lilius and leaving threatening messages on her answering machine.
Billy, don't think you can get away with this. I'm gonna fix things. Believe me.
He knows where they live, and he's got a criminal record for murder. The newlyweds pray he'll just leave them alone, but refuse to live in fear of him. Now that they're in a committed union, they ask their pastor to bless their apartment.
Lord, I want you to bless this loving couple. Bless this.
As he prays, Tony and Lilius begin an unusual chant. The pastor's startled. He can't really understand the words, but it doesn't sound like any traditional prayer.
Tony didn't pray in the Christian way that our family would pray.
And he'd quote some stuff, but then it was sort of like a mumbling thing. It wasn't like a straight up religious conversation.
What is this?
But Tony's intense and personal approach to his faith is part of what made Lilius fall for him. The man she'd be with forever. But that forever has now died with Lilius. Within 3 days of finding the body, detectives finally locate Max Taylor, Lilius's possessive ex.
So why y'all got me here?
It's about Lilius.
He confirms he had gone to prison for murder and admits he was not at all happy about Lilius's relationship with Tony, but he swears he didn't harm her. He gives them an alibi for the day the murder took place. He was with friends who can confirm it. And there's more.
Max's footprint was smaller than what we measured on the step. The step print was at least a 13, and then his footprint was smaller.
It's too small.
It's clear physical proof he was not the one walking through the blood. And after they confirm his alibi, they know Max is not the killer. For detectives, it's a major blow. He'd been their best lead, and now he's off the suspect list. Lilius's murderer remains on the loose, and Tony is still missing. The couple had seemed to live with a pure and devout faith, but as police investigate, sinister truths will emerge, revealing unimaginable evil. It's been 3 days since the discovery of the decapitation murder of newlywed Lilius Landrum. With no good leads and the best suspect cleared, loved ones and Akron police fear the worst for Lilius's new husband, Tony Smith.
We don't know where he's at. We don't know if it's maybe like a home invasion or something. Did whoever do this do something to him also? Everybody was worried about him.
How could such unimaginable horror have befallen this radiant couple? Just months earlier, they celebrated the holidays with Lilius's family. Everyone's delighted to see Lilius smiling and happy. For some in the family, it's the first time meeting Tony.
Everybody was eating, everything was fine. But then we started noticing that he was separating himself from us. He would fade off, go into the living room. It's like just getting away.
Why is he so distant on a day that's all about coming together? Some don't think her new husband is right for her.
It was sort of weirding us out a little bit. I told her I didn't like the guy.
It's hard to hear at first, but then Lilius does admit the relationship is an unusual one.
She told me that she started out as a godmother to him and grooming him, and then the relationship sort of just happened.
Let's listen to something else.
Louis, we need to go.
Okay.
She's trying to make it work, but the family wonders, did Lilius marry the wrong guy?
That we didn't see much of Lilius anymore after Thanksgiving.
As the weeks pass, friends and family start to see glimpses that Tony is changing, for the worse. Any new couple has growing pains, but Tony seems angry all the time now.
The neighbor upstairs, he heard them having fights and yelling.
Friends notice he begins to order her around, demanding her total obedience.
It was like he controlled everything that she said, that she did. Even a couple of her friends said, why don't you wear this? Well, Tony doesn't want me to wear things like that anymore.
Put my hat on.
You can't wear that in there.
Why
It's
not?
disrespectful to Yahweh. Take it off.
But I always wear my...
Take the head off.
Becoming subservient is sort of what spouses do to try to placate, to try to avoid anger, to try to keep everything okay. They let the person become in control because they think that'll be the way to avoid conflict.
Their pastor observes a disturbing new dynamic between the couple as well.
Phyllis, Tony.
He thought it was strange that whenever he asked them a question, she would never answer. She would always look at him to see if it was okay for her to answer, or he would answer for Lilius.
I'll catch you at a prayer service tomorrow night.
In a shocking move, Tony announces he and Lilius will be leaving the flock. He says God has called them in a holier direction. Tony himself will be their minister. He is now ready to spread the real word, as he has come to understand it.
We won't be returning to the church. Well, anytime a person leaves, you always feel a little bit shocked. So when Lilius left our ministry, I was kind of sad because she made a great impact upon the people who were there.
He pulled her away from her supportive community at her church, and she obeyed. She loved him. She was hoping that if she did everything he said, if she could just comply, that they could be happy again.
Then, Lilius gets moved to part-time at work, and the record label doesn't turn a profit. Tony refuses to work elsewhere, leaving the couple financially at risk. Soon their unpaid bills pile up. They can just barely afford food and rent, but little else.
Their water had been turned off. That's what the bucket in the basement was all about. That was their bathroom because they had no running water.
Lilius keeps their desperate situation to herself.
She never would have let anyone know that she was having financial difficulties.
The last time family members see Lilius alive, she's still putting up a brave face at a dinner at her mother's house. Despite their concerns about him, they try to make Tony feel at home.
And they asked Tony to pray over the food. And he prayed so long and so crazily they had to reheat the food.
The mighty and all-powerful El Shaddai just loves and blesses
all of his righteousness and hates the wicked with such a passion, and we're just so...
The tension is palpable. It's clear to everyone. Lilius has made a terrible mistake.
Just come before you begging that you would protect us from the demons that would...
And she now knows it too. She confides in her brother. She's decided to leave Tony. After dinner, she tells Tony she wants to stay the night at her mom's, but he convinces her to come home with him.
2 days later, my mother and talked to her, and she talks to my mother every day. We were all worried. I went by their house and knocked on the door.
There's no answer, and no one ever hears from Lilius again. During one of their last conversations, Lilius tells her friend Donna about a haunting feeling she had.
She told me that she was going to die. That she had a premonition that she was going to die. She didn't say how. She didn't say why.
No one knows why, yet. But as detectives continue their investigation, they find an alarming clue in Tony's journals.
There was a lot of writings about religious things and about how to cast demons out.
If your eye causes you to sin, cut it out.
And then there was these ongoing comments of off with her head or off with the head.
Off with the head.
We were everyone in the family was totally shocked that he was writing these lyrics off with the head.
Clearly, Tony's religious faith has taken a very dark and dangerous turn. His hateful words immediately move him from potential victim to crucial suspect. But where is he? Then, police in Whitehall, Ohio, 130 miles south of Akron, report that on March 26th, the day after the murder, but before the body was found, they chased a stolen SUV through the city.
So after 40 minutes of a high-speed chase, the Whitehall Police Department were able to lay out stop sticks.
The car ran off the road and hit a tree. The driver, Tony Smith.
When they pulled him out the car, he actually tried to fight with the police, and the dog kind of chewed him up a little bit.
Finally, the new groom is in custody, and the story he's about to tell will provide the most sickening twist of all. 4 days after Akron police find Lilius Landrum decapitated in her basement, her husband, Tony Smith, is transported back to Akron and brought to police headquarters.
After he's arrested and he's in our custody, we actually roll his foot with like ink, just like a handprint. Put it on paper.
Lilius's murderer left a bloody footprint at the crime scene. It's a perfect match.
Look at the picture.
It clearly places him at the murder. Detectives tell him they know that he did it. They just want to know why.
Tony puts his head down, and then he wants to try to explain about, well, she was the devil.
She let the devil in her.
And this is what I had to do to rid her of the devil, like he was doing her a favor by what he had done.
The only way you kill a devil is you cut his head off.
It's the final, awful betrayal of the woman who had loved him so selflessly.
How can you compare Lilius to the devil? A person who had taken you in, ministered with you, shared with you, encouraged you, embraced, centered you around people who gave love, now all of a sudden switch and change. The two just doesn't go together.
Is the devil's story just a ploy to seem crazy? Detectives think he really killed her because she was leaving him. After the confession, they have to tell the family that their beloved Lilius died by her own husband's hand.
We were everyone in the family was totally shocked that he was capable of anything like this. But who he portrayed himself to be was totally different from the monster that could have severed her head.
We were flabbergasted. I hated that it was Tone.
I hated that it was him that could commit, such a heinous crime.
On April 15th, 1998, Akron prosecutors charged Tony Smith with aggravated murder, which potentially carries a life sentence. But he pleads insanity, and if he is declared insane, he might only have to spend a few years in a mental hospital.
She was the devil.
Prosecutors have him evaluated by mental health professionals.
The evaluation came back that he was competent and he was not legally insane, meaning he knew the difference between right and wrong.
Tony Smith is found competent to face the charges in court. But Lilius's family doesn't want to go through the anguish of a public trial.
Because it was so graphic. And my mom was sort of ill already. And we prayed. We didn't want the trial.
To avoid a trial, Tony Smith is offered and accepts a deal of 15 years to life in exchange for a guilty plea. Prosecutors believe Tony's increasing possession and control finally boiled over after that last dinner with her family. Lilius told Tony she was leaving him that night. It was the last straw, triggering a murderous rage. He grabbed a kitchen knife and attacked. Investigators believe as she tried her best to fight back, he slashed her throat, then cut off her head. He then dumped her body behind the furnace. Then, as a final act of hatred and contempt, he dropped her head into the bucket filled with waste. The family hopes Lilius's story will help others avoid a similar fate.
At the first sign of controlling behavior, whether it's jealousy, violence, criticism, that's the time to get out. At the very first sign. This is not the time to placate him and please him and hope that you'll be good enough for him someday. If he's controlling, if he's the least bit violent, this is the time to get out.
Lilius Landrum dedicated her life to making the world a better place. She tried her best to help Tony, but he betrayed her in the most horrific way.
She was just a helper. She opened her door to people maybe sometimes that she shouldn't. And I think this was one of them. This was too heavy for me. Somebody you really love, and we were real tight. That just killed me.
We always promised each other that we would be there for each other and be holding each other's hand when the other one's life was at an end. And he robbed us of that ability.